Hello, friends. Welcome into TexAgs Rewind, presented by Yeti. Roy May with me to my left, Matt Browning with me to my left, and I am David Nuno. Hello, friends.
He's to our right.
I am. I don't know why. I mean,
Hey,
they're watching on YouTube, so they would probably be able to see.
Well, it's like when they say, from your radio dial going left to right.
Yes.
Yeah, when they do football games.
Now your YouTube screen.
A&M going left to right on your radio dial, so you can picture which side of the field they were on.
So today on the program, you guys weren't on when this happened, but somebody I don't want to say called me out. They were actually very respectful, but you were wrong about A&M football last year. You didn't. Yeah, I was wrong.
Everyone was wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone was wrong.
But you were an insider. You should. Yeah, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was wrong. And should I have thought that the young players were going to take a little bit longer to develop? Yeah, I did think it. I mean, I didn't think they were going to be 5-7. Nobody did. But if I'm building a team, I'm building a team with older players.
Yeah.
But you have to build with young players. But do you in today's world? I don't know. Everybody's trying to figure it out.
I've had my F-150 for 12 years. I take care of it, change the oil, tires, all of it. I can't tell you when it's going to break down, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just does.
Yeah. Hey, and he without sin cast the first stone. I bet you've been wrong about stuff too, pal.
3 weeks ago, my window just stopped working. Didn't see that coming.
And how do you fix that?
Last year we lost to App State. Blech.
Nobody saw that come. Yeah.
It's like the ultimate kick in the junk, bump in the road. Boy, the response better be pretty positive, though, right?
It better be. It better be. On the show, we talked a little bit about that. We had Stephen McGee on. We had fun with Stephen, as we always do. He made fun of music. It was great. Schloss was on. That interview, I'm telling you, was awesome. And it's not me. It's Schloss. You can ask him stuff, and he knows how to answer it. And, it's not spin. It's
There's
directly.
no coach speak.
Yeah. It's
none.
This is what it is.
Yep.
And I always sometimes I'm I don't know if I should ask this question with him. I feel very comfortable because he's just going to tell you what he thinks at that moment. Mm-hmm. So that was great. Trey Wallace, Outkick the coverage. He was awesome. Aaron Torres of Fox Sports Radio. Love him too. AT made fun of me a little bit. It's all good.
That's why we love AT. I mean.
Oh, really? That's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's my friend right there. All right, man. It's TexAgs Rewind. Let's move on to the PGA Live merger. I know you're a big golf guy. How did that news catch you the other day?
I was stunned. I love it. Obviously, this is going to be my bullcrap this week, so I'll just go ahead and say it. But ultimately, it's going to be great for the golf. I mean, golfers are going to be sitting back. I mean, there's some of the most well-paid athletes in the world now, and the guys on the PGA Tour are going to benefit from this. Ultimately, it's the way they handle it that was, more bullcrap than anything. But it's turned into an episode of The Housewives on the PGA Tour, and the drama. It's great for adult males like myself, who it's probably the sport I pay the most attention to nowadays is the PGA Tour out of any professional sport. And I think that they're going to invest a ton of money. I mean, everything comes down to dollars and cents, as you know, and being able to inject those types of numbers into the game, it's going to ultimately be good for everybody, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what, man, that Monahan guy, he just comes across as just, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to be too mean, but there's something about him, scummy. I don't know, I don't like the way he comes across. He's
the ultimate douche. I mean, he essentially is a bait and switch. He lied to those guys and then came around and inked the same deal that those guys passed up. The fascinating part to me is going to be, how do they make this right? Because there's guys like Rory that passed up, $400 million supposedly, and then guys like Koepka who accepted the whatever $300 million that he got, and now for them to merge, what does that look like? Do they have to continue? Someone told me that the $300 million is just guaranteed winnings, but if they win a tournament, they don't get the $4 million. It just comes out of the $300 million they were fully guaranteed up front. So does that continue on for the guys that were on Live?
This team, how it's going to look next year in two parts. First off, this young core that really stepped up this year from Max and Jace and, Lampkin. Just talk about this core that should be coming back and how they grew this year.
Yeah, I mean, you could go, each individual story is great. Obviously, Jace is the headliner of that group, and super proud of the way he handled himself throughout the course of the season. But you got Lavalette. I thought Max Coffer, where would we be without him? Mm-hmm. I mean, he ended up really handling the pitching staff well. If people could see the analytics of his job of how they grade catchers now and make strikes and the fringy pitches, present them to the umpire well. He did a really nice job with that. And his batting average wasn't great, but his at bats were always really, really good. Had some big RBIs, and always had a really good on base percentage for a guy that didn't have a high batting average. So, and then Lampkin and Sadeo thought were outstanding. Sadeo specifically took a huge jump and became a big part of our bullpen. One of my hopes for that last game was if Nathan could give us enough. Stanford had not seen Sadeo, where they had seen Aschenbeck and Johnston and Garcia. So I thought, we'd have that. I felt good about our plan going into that game, but I really think Lampkin and Sadeo are going to be really good starting pitchers for us. If they're not starting pitchers, that means we have some other really good ones step to the forefront. I thought Caden Kent gave us at bats when we needed it. Different parts of the season. Everybody thinks about the last 2 months of the season. The entire season in itself is a game in February just as important as a game in May. And so Caden did some good things. Case and Wells, guys that are going to be a part of this thing, for a while, we hope. So it's a good core to build around, but we have a lot of work to do. We have a good high school class coming in. We need to hold those guys. I'll be getting in my car and on some planes here in the next 2 weeks to have some real in-depth conversations to make sure we give ourselves the best chance to hold those players in the draft.
Who's somebody that people's eyes should be on when it comes to a surprise team that people maybe are not expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I look at what we have in the SEC West and the SEC East this year. I think that Texas A&M can be that surprise team. And look, we have to, and I know that's weird for Texas A&M fans to hear surprise team, but I'm sorry, that's just the point that Texas A&M is at right now, coming off last season. I'm very high on Bobby Petrino, but I want to see what that relationship looks like when we get 3 games into the season, or we get down to South Florida and there's some crazy play happening on 3rd and 6, and Bobby wants to run one thing and Jimbo wants to run the other. Who's getting final say? So I think Texas A&M, look, I love Connor Weigman as well. I think Texas A&M can be a surprise team, along with, LSU's not a surprise to me because I think LSU is going to be good behind Jaden Daniels. But if there's one team out of the West that stands out to me that can make some noise this year, I don't think it's Ole Miss. I think that they've got problems outside of Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders, who plays. I do think it's Jimbo Fisher. And I will say this, if they're not in playoff contention in the first week of November, there's a massive problem going on in College Station, because I think that is where you have to set the bar. If you're a fan, get through the month of September and October. But if the first week of November, if you're not in, let's just say, top 12 in the country, and you got a shot to make some noise down at the end and get into the play, that's when you have to relook at everything that's gone on with Jimbo Fisher and make sure this is the right direction you're going to go heading towards a 12-team playoff. So, but I think they're going to be surprised in the West. I think that Tennessee could be a surprise in the East with Joe Milton, but that's only if the guy can keep the football, within the football stadium.
So I'm curious about it. Is NIL officially running out? One report says that I haven't seen that report. What can you tell me about this story?
Well, I think it's interesting. So by the way, that's a great tease because now everybody wants to know what's going on. So 2 of the early, kind of feel-good NIL stories, like from the beginning of NIL, like pre-collectives, pre-whatever, Michigan State had a booster that was giving, I think it was up to $700K $700 a month to every, I think it was football, men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball, and like 1 or 2 other sports. And then BYU, and I remember this was like the first month of NIL, they had a company that was, giving a certain dollar amount to every football player. And so within the last like 2 weeks, both of those deals have blown up. BYU football players have gone public about, BYU football players have gone public that they're not getting paid, blah, 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 blah. And then the Michigan State one, the guy pulled the funding. Now, admittedly, the guy who pulled the funding is Matt Ishbia, who just spent a cool little $4 billion with a B on the Phoenix Suns. But I bring it up because I think this does speak to the evolution of NIL, where, yes, I think collectives are going to be a factor. And but I do think we're starting to see, like I said, an evolution. I think we're going to continue to see elite players get well taken care of. And I do think, obviously, collectives are going to actually – I think we're headed towards a good place from NIL because I think we're headed towards a place where it's actually going to be what it was intended to be from the perspective that I do think going forward, collectives are going to make sure, hey, the guys on our roster, the guys that have produced, the guys that have actual value in this marketplace, whether it's A&M, Penn State, Ohio, the big brands, those are the guys that are going to be taken care of. And so I think we're seeing an evolution, and I do think to some degree the money is drying up where, these team-wide deals and things like that, I just don't think they're going to be there 2 or 3 years from now as the space continues to evolve.
All right, Roy and Matt, tell us what to do.
Well, I'm drinking water, but okay.
Like,
subscribe, share, comment.
And click the notification bell so you never miss another TexAgs Rewind.
How happy are you about the number 1 pick in the NBA? Oh, can't talk about that. We'll see you next time.